Welcome to CHIMEcast, where we delve into the heart of digital health, exploring innovation, leadership, and the evolving landscape of healthcare technology. I'm Russ Branzell, President and CEO of CHIME, and this is Tales from the Digital Frontier, a special podcast series exploring what keeps digital health's most influential leaders up at night and what keeps them pushing forward. Today, we're taking a deep into the mind's view of healthcare's digital disruptors, leaders who are chasing big ideas, dodging the hype, and redefining what it means to lead strategically through the high risk, high reward of digital revolution in health and care. Here with us today is Lyle McMillin, Associate Vice President of Product Management at Hyland. Lyle leads strategy at Hyland's Healthcare Information Management and Enterprise Imaging portfolios, working closely with healthcare organizations to translate cloud, AI, and automation into practical solutions that support clinical and operational excellence. Lyle, it is a pleasure to have you on the program today. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, everybody that's ever heard me talk knows I hate the word transformation, so I'll use it in the first sentence. How about that, Lyle? Just to contradict myself. Well, we've been talking a lot in this industry about digital transformation, what I like to refer to as our big revolution right now. Really, it seems like we've been going a long time, and translating into real impact. For some, have taken a while, and for some, they maybe haven't even seen it yet. So, from where you sit, where are healthcare organizations actually making meaningful progress today, and what's finally making really what we always dreamed is possible into real tangible solutions maybe over the last few years?
Yeah, this is a really good question because if you really think back to the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen a massive amount of change in the healthcare industry, especially when we're discussing the topic of AI. And so if I go back, let's say 2 to 3 years ago, we were just now getting introduced to large language models in the industry. And although most healthcare organizations had had some experience deploying some type of narrow AI into their organizations, things like sepsis risk analysis and the radiologists are deploying lung nodule detection and that those types of computer vision type tool sets. Large language models really opened up a whole new world of possibility in AI. And so 2 to 3 years ago, what organizations were really spending their time on was learning, how do I get into this world? What are the use cases I can apply this technology to? How can I make impact on my business? We're way past that point now. I think most organizations have at least at the very at least at the very least, I guess, dipped their toe into the modern AI capabilities. We see this a lot with things like ambient listening that seems to have a pretty broad market share at this point inside of healthcare. And so when I look back to where we were then to where we were now, the conversations we're having with customers around AI are much more advanced because of the fact that they've gone through the procurement cycles, they put in place the governance frameworks, they've put in place, the security policies and protocols to deal with AI. They're monitoring, they've trained people, they've deployed. We're now talking about going to that kind of next level of digital transformation now, which is what makes it really exciting for companies like Hyland, because at Hyland, we're focused on helping customers scale their AI. And the only way they're going to do that in today's world is to get control of the data they manage on the back end. And so from our standpoint, we're past the early stages of what is AI, what can it do for me, how do I set my business up to procure and deploy. Now executives that the customers we're talking to are saying, how do I deploy in mass a lot of AI that can dramatically change my business? And also, how do I deploy the AI that I've decided to implement inside my organization? How do I do that at scale? And when we're talking about organizations that have hundreds of locations, dozens of hospitals, that's a big challenge. And so that's really, to me, it's the types of conversations we're having, the fact that they're starting to ask the right questions about how to make this scale in their organizations, that really gets me excited.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even today, I was talking to several of our Chime members from some of the larger institutions, and They kind of describe things in two ways. One, things are moving really, really fast.
Yes.
Lots of initiative, lots of projects, updating their EHR the latest, whatever needs to be updated, but maybe putting a new sales system in or putting a new service solution in or whatever it might be. So there's craziness of busyness. All at the same time, they kind of say, there's so many initiatives, us actually focusing on some of this stuff and really getting the big value out of it sometimes slows down or maybe even stalls because we're so busy being busy, getting stuff done. So as you look at this, as maybe the cloud and AI initiatives seem to expand into clinical and workflow areas where we will really see the biggest bang, kind of what's the determination of when this actually is a big impact, a big value, something we can translate from a project to actually something that transforms or changes the business?
Yeah, and this is that wall that I was just referring to that people are starting to run into. I think deploying, a narrow AI solution into an organization that maybe focuses on solving one problem for one part of the organization, that is difficult enough. That's, you mentioned it. Every IT organization that we talk to has hundreds of projects going on, and hundreds more in their backlog. And so they can be successful with a single solution that at least in that area of their business impacts, positively, that department. The the bigger problem is when they start to try to expand at scale, they run into issues with fragmentation associated with the data inside of their organization. And so at Hyland, we focus on the unstructured content for provider organizations. And that is about 80% of the content that is available to help drive AI initiatives and as well as other organizational initiatives. In a recent survey, though, that we did with HIMSS, less than 1 in 5 of the organizations surveyed felt like their content and data infrastructure was fully prepared to support AI automation. And so we're seeing this. The survey is showing it. Customers are trying to scale AI. They're trying to deploy AI in mass. The problem is their data resides in dozens of locations throughout the organization, and being able to federate appropriately, being able to either migrate appropriately, being able to make sure that everything's interoperable, everything's available, it's making things very difficult for them. And we've seen this for many years. We've helped customers with their clinical administrative documents. We've helped them with their medical images. We've built our products with a strategy of, as much as possible, bring all the content together into single repositories. The content you can't bring together, make sure you federate. So our new Content Innovation Cloud product that we launched last year was built with this idea of federation, bring everything together, make sure that we can use all the content that's available to help drive organizational initiatives. The reason we chose to do that is because we've seen a lot of customers be successful with this approach, and we feel this is the approach that ultimately the industry will take, but it's going to take a long time. One of the customers that is part of one of the customers that inspires us at Hyland is Metro North out of Queensland, Australia, who was able to bring together 8 major clinical service areas, which included cardiology and stroke services, bring all that content, including all their radiology imaging, into a VNA, so a vendor neutral archive for medical images, bring all that available, make it interoperable. And what they've seen as a result of that is the fact that when they go and deploy AI solutions, like one that they recently did that helped them identify missed lesions on images, they were able to see results in days versus weeks. They were able to get all their surgical videos in the hands of physicians all across the state. Patients were able to see these same images, these same videos. So the patient engagement went up because the patient could see what the physician was after or what the physician was looking at. The physician could have an intelligent conversation with the patient. All the physicians had access to all the information everywhere. And so we see these successes at Hyland because that's what we do. And so we're looking ahead to where the industry is going, and this is the path that they need to go down to have success. And this is why we build our products a certain way, why we guide our customers. It's all built on the historical successes we've had with customers around the globe.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's definitely a lot of talk about this out there and a lot of other things, but also there's what ends up being for the average leader trying to lead digital health inside organizations, what ends up being noise. And I'd love to hear from your perspective, what's just kind of hype at this point? What is maybe a little, you can maybe a softer word for hype is maybe it's getting a little too much attention. It's really not as valuable in getting the results. And what's kind of quietly revealing results inside organizations in a really meaningful way that maybe we don't quite have our eye on yet?
So we at Hyland, and I think the industry as a whole believes that AI is the future solution to many of the problems that healthcare has. We've not, as an industry, been able to simultaneously reduce costs, increase access to care, and improve clinical outcomes for our patients. We've always had those trade-offs, right? AI is the way that we're going to be able to positively affect all three of those for the first time, maybe in the history of the industry. So the hype around AI is real, but the hype is quite intense at this point. And so I think a lot of people still are being, led astray a little bit by the shiny objects, right? The what can this do? What wonderful things will this do for my business? And in many cases, they're forgetting the people that are going to ultimately use these tools to make, the care that they provide better or to reduce costs, make operational efficiency better within the organization. When we look at where AI fails, it's usually, if you want to use an American football reference, it's usually on the 5 yard line, right? Trying to score. The technology works. There's no arguing about that. But it's the humans that need to be kept involved in the planning process that I think sometimes gets missed. It's the training and the upskilling of the people deploying. It's the training and the user experience of the people using the products. It's the change management programs that have to be put in place. Those things, if not done correctly, are going to waste a lot of really good efforts by a lot of really smart people in the industry. And I think we just need to always keep that in mind that's important. When we build solutions at Hyland, we're not AI forward with everything we're doing. We want to use the tools to solve a problem for our customers. And a lot of times we try to hide the AI a little bit because we want them just to use the workflow tools the way that they feel they need to be used. We want to use them naturally as part of the workflow processes they do on a daily basis. If AI can make that better, then we want to apply the most cutting edge technologies to make that happen. But we try not to get caught up too much in the tools themselves. And I think if we can just take a step back, really think through how the people are going to use them and think about the usability, I think this will go a long way to making these more successful deployments.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is interesting how each organization kind of looks at things differently and what they listen to and what they don't listen to. It's also interesting that there are organizations that seem to be doing really well going from idea, concept to full scaling. And then there's organizations that really struggle doing that. Matter of fact, one of our good friends in the industry happens to be our current board chair, John Manis, often says, we don't have technology problems, we have adoption problems.
Yeah.
We actually have to get in there and figure out why this isn't working in operations, why we aren't culturally fixing things. Is it a tech architecture problem? Is it a culture? Is it an operations issue? But very rarely is it a technology problem. And so, as you get to see customers do it really well, and maybe occasionally see customers that haven't done it as well, what do you think the differentiators are? What are the attributes of organizations that are figuring out how to actually get full value out of these initiatives?
Yeah, and we really, we agree with the industry that we think AI can help fix a lot of systemic issues that exist in healthcare, but it's the alignment that the organization has to have internally that still is always going to be a problem. These are, in many cases, even a small organization may have a few hundred employees, but a large organization, you may be looking at over, 50,000, 100,000 employees across multiple states, hundreds of locations, some of which were acquired, during various stages over the last decade. And so it really is going to take a lot from the executive team to be able to get that alignment that needs to take place in the organization to be able to make this, adopt these technologies at scale. It all needs to start with a clear strategy of why you're doing it. And when we talk about when you look at what we do at Hyland, especially in my organization, of product management, we always start with a clear problem at hand. And so, organizations that have clear problems that they're trying to solve, they have clear strategies, they have, enterprise-wide governance programs in place, and they really work with the culture, work to manage the culture that exists within the organization to try to make it one that is accepting of change. I think those organizations are going to have a much easier time than the ones who kind of skip by this part and go right to the technology. I still think I agree with you and your peer. The technology works. I don't think there's any arguing about that, but that's that alignment within the organization that is ultimately what slows everything down. And the larger the organization, the more difficult it is.
Yeah, similarly, and again, I really hope your experience with your customers and with the people you see in the industry, you can some shed some light on this. And that is there seems to be this never-ending perfection expectation, and that we can do 99 initiatives really well and we've earned massive trust, but yet the one that doesn't go as well, we lose all that trust. It's a one and done kind of trust thing. What are you seeing people do in your view of the marketplace, really more like what I'll say the healthcare leaders are doing to really take these technologies, create signals that actually indicate a solution can deliver the value and actually drive that to fruition and maintain that relationship of trust.
Yeah, I think on that front, we're really what I think organizations have to spend a lot of time doing is understanding the problems that they're trying to solve. I think if you come at this from a really, you know, a really strong desire to fix problems within the organization, the technology will present itself ultimately through that process. Like I said, in the product management organization, we spend an inordinate amount of time trying to understand the problem that the customer has, and because we have similar risk if we don't. The risk for us is the same as a healthcare organization. If I go 6 months down the road building a new product and I realize that I didn't solve a problem for my customer, I'm probably not going to sell a whole lot of this new product I've spent 6 months on. If our customers don't spend time understanding their problems, truly understanding what they're trying to solve, and they're not just trying to throw AI out there for the sake of meeting some quota that they put on themselves, I think they're going to have a better chance of success with all their initiatives. We did the same thing when we put out our recent intelligent document processing solution. We built a wonderful platform that was driven by large language model AI technology that can separate, classify, extract data. Does it better than anything we've ever seen in the past. But we didn't start getting true momentum on these solutions until we started, building solutions on top of the platforms that we had brought to market, and that's where we came out with our intelligent med record solution. The moment we built that on top of our IDP solution, customers got really excited and they started, wanting to talk to us. But that's because we were solving a problem for them. We weren't giving them a tool set. We were giving them a solution to something that was causing them a migraine in their daily lives. I think if healthcare executives and IT executives and others really spend their time looking at, the solution that they're trying to solve, the technology now exists to solve almost anything. And so for me, it's not about deploying AI, it's about solving those problems. And once you do that, that helps you build that long-term momentum that you're looking for.
So as you think through this, and again, you see what's working, you see what's not working, you see what's maybe technology, maybe what's maybe organizational adoption and all of this. In the world of where should we place our bets on different things, I'd love to hear your perspective on this as you think about what bold areas are truly, truly going to change how healthcare is delivered? Or are there anything that you're seeing that's really going to create that revolutionary thing that drives clinical quality, safety, accessibility, and actually affordability, that kind of quadruple aim we've been thinking and working about for a long time? I'd just love to hear what you're excited about, what you think is going to really drive monumental change in our health system.
Yeah, the what we're all working on, what the industry seems to be focusing on, and we are 100% behind it, is agentic AI. So,
Mhm.
you think about deploying agents that, they're built on large language model technologies. So we're leveraging the LLMs in a new way, but we're using the LLMs to analyze some data set. In our case, a lot of times it's documents, but we're analyzing those and we're letting the LLM, look at the information that's being presented to them. We're letting the LLM decide what actions need to take place. That those decisions are based off training documents that the healthcare organization has, or policy documents, some other type of information that an employee would use to make the exact same decisions. And we're giving the agents the ability to not only, analyze that and make a decision, but we're giving the agents the ability to take action. And to me, this is the part of healthcare that could really explode in the next couple of years. We're actively working with customers right now to develop what we're calling the agentic hospital, which is looking at the hundreds of different places within a hospital workflows where an agent could actually improve either the flow of information or could reduce the amount of resources necessary to affect that workflow positively. We see that we could be, having the agents take over a lot of these mundane tasks, things that are dragging employees down, things that are taking up an inordinate amount of time of employees' work, uh, getting them away from these really just horrible tasks that they hate doing, so that they can be freed up to do more valuable tasks within the organization. As all the organizations we deal with operate on such thin margins, they're having trouble, hiring people. The resources they have in-house today are extremely valuable. And being able to not only make, free up time for clinicians, which obviously is going to have a positive impact on patient care and potentially allow us to see more patient, increase access, but just free up the administrative workers to be able to do more and do more valuable work for the organization. Some of this may have financial impacts, some may have operational efficiency impacts. That to me is going to be the thing that pushes us all over the top and really gets us to the point where we can see massive changes at the true enterprise level. So I would say we have all bets in on agentic AI. Obviously, if you were at any of the trade shows this year or go to any of the rest of the year, you'll see that it's a big buzz term in the industry. We're working hard to make it real, and we think once it happens, it's going to dramatically shift the way that hospitals work.
Well, Lyle, unfortunately, that is the end of our time today. Truly, thank you for this. I learned some stuff today that I hadn't heard before, and I greatly appreciate your perspectives of what's really happening out there in the workplace. It is so in sync with what we're hearing from our Chime members, what we're hearing from people as they struggle day to day to try to make a difference in their health system. So I appreciate your perspective on AI and automation and everything that's going on out there. I'd love to hear from the eyes and the ears of experts like yourself. But thank you for being on our program today.
No, thanks, Russ. I appreciate the opportunity.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in today. And for more in-depth conversations with influential leaders and other tales from the digital frontier, visit us at chimecentral.org/media or find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Till next time, keep asking those hard questions. And for now, stay safe. God bless.